It's time for Get the Lac Scoop, a podcast bringing you all the people and stuff you should know in the game of lacrosse. We take Lac seriously, but ourselves, not so much. Join hosts Big Dog and Gerry Byrne and the biggest names in the game. Brought to you by J. McMahon Lacrosse. That's JML, skills, mindset, and Lac's IQ training.
Ron Douglas, the Big Dog, was a collegiate football and lacrosse player at Brown. He was also an assistant lacrosse coach and the executive director of the Sports Foundation.
And Jay McMahon, the Jaybird, a three-time All-American midfielder at Brown. He was a captain of the U.S. Junior National Team and is the founder of JML. And joining us in the studio, Steve Byrne, whose collegiate lacrosse career statistics equals 1 goal against Dartmouth. Brought to you by J. McMahon Lacrosse. That's JML, skills, mindset, and Lac's IQ training, helping the next generation of cross players get to the next level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We are super excited to bring you the next interview from our series with coaches Gerry and Steve Byrne. You will find this interview in progress. So, Steve, as we mentioned, you traveled quite a bit as you were working at General Electric and now have been coaching in high school in the Cleveland, Ohio area now for 15 years. And then, as we said in the opening, you've played and coached in 20 different states. So give us a little bit of your perspective on the growth of the game and what it's like in all these different regions around the country.
Yeah, I mean, with GE, they sent me, I was 24 and I quit my job in retail. The first time I played out of state was in Florida, and I was working at Lord & Taylor, and they sent me down to a store to be the manager of the men's department, if you can imagine that. That's why I had this suave leather.
Let's get a guy from Levittown. Let's put him in charge of fashion.
That makes tremendous sense.
Put it this way.
Yeah.
You know what a Levittown three-piece suit is? Jeans, jean jacket, and Chuck Taylors.
Nice. I love it. That was great.
So the lacrosse was like everywhere I went to, 4 or 5 different cities in like 10 years. I found a lacrosse club. So in Florida, I found the West Palm Beach Club, still friends with guys there. I met one of my best friends who was in my wedding. He played at Carolina. He was playing for the Miami team, and he and I were actually living in the same town. I got to GE. They basically took all 30 newly trained salespeople and they sent us opposite of where we were from. So I'm thinking it's a 30-day training, and then they're going to send me to Long Island. I can live and hang out with all my high school buddies and have a territory, and my career is going. So they go, okay, Byrne, you're going to Dallas, Texas. And I'm like, what? Why am I going to Dallas?
Right.
So that's what it was. They shot me to Dallas, and my territory was Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas.
Holy cow.
So for a year, I would fly and travel all over the place. But as I got there, the first thing I got to find, it's got to be some lacrosse players here. It's got to be a club of some sort. So I ended up finding a club a few months after I was there, late 85. And
they had one there in Dallas, huh?
And I'm in Dallas, and I met a guy who, I talked to today, Kenny Lober. Gerry knows him. He became one of my best friends. We lived together, and I was able to. I only played there a year. I was only there for a year, but I would any away game, I would set up calls there, so I could fly there or I could drive there and not spend any money. But it was. Right. It was tremendous. One of the guys on the team played at WNL, and he owned a bar in this cool area of Dallas. And after the game, we would, that's where we would go, and that was great. So then they moved me from Dallas to Cleveland. I found the Cleveland Lacrosse Club. I played with them, and then they've been begging me ever since to come back. I played in 1987. I said, I'm not playing.
Right. Right. Get to a certain point,
I almost was going to go down to Florida in January to play with these guys, but then I said, you know what? Probability's not with me. So again, you build community. For me, it was building community. So then from there, I went back to New York. I played again with Harvey at North Hempstead Lacrosse Club with a bunch of Levittown guys and a bunch of knuckleheads. And we were always second banana to Long Island Lacrosse Club. But the one year we won, we beat Long Island, and Harvey was like the greatest moment, because Harvey Cohen was overcome with just joy. And so
That's
I played
awesome.
there. I played for Brian up in Boston for 2 years. We went to the club championship 2 years in a row.
That's great.
That's also on YouTube. I watched that. Yeah, so I mean, the game has grown tremendously from a coaching standpoint. Honestly, I have to give a lot of credit to Gerry. I mean, I got begged to coach Gilmore Academy, which was Catholic school, 100 kids a class, 50 boys, and this guy's son was a good lacrosse player, was going in, and he was. So I said, okay, because I was running a business at the time, and so I took it, and they had won 2 games a year before, 1 game the year before that. They were, and I'm like, oh, so I remember talking to Gerry. He goes, I just got rid of the seniors. So I'm like, all right, that's not a bad idea. But I couldn't get rid of all of them, because I only had a handful, right? Because it was 50 boys per class. But these guys, all they needed was somebody who cared, who could teach, and could hold them to account.
Right.
And that's what happened. So the parents were like overjoyed. They were like baking me cakes and giving me cookies, and it was as we're actually catching.
Just like today for you, Gerry, you get a lot of cake and cookies from parents. I mean, yeah.
Sure.
You want some stroking those checks?
That's the last guy. This is the last guy you want to give sweets to.
Get him hyped up.
He's like David Blaine. It just disappears.
So I mean, it was one of my favorite years coaching, was this group, because they understood that I had to, quote unquote, break them. I said, look, I'm going to quit. You guys obviously are still trying to, not do what you need to do and you can do. And it snapped. And we went on this magical run to a state championship.
That's awesome.
And we ended up losing to a very good team. My goalie made 27 saves. We lost by 3 or 4 goals.
Wow.
But it was tremendous. And that joy of having, help them achieve this. I see the boys every now and then. I'll get a message on LinkedIn, seeing how I'm doing, and so they still talk about that.
Right.
That's
awesome.
That season, which was great. So then I stopped coaching there. We brought them up to a good level, probably the best level they could be, given the size of the school. So then I said to my wife, I said, the worst lacrosse program in the area is Shaker Heights, where I live. I can't bear it anymore. I would go watch them, and they were just undisciplined and not, they didn't have really skilled coaching. So this is where Gerry comes in. So I take the team over, and I'm like, there's just cancer everywhere. And so what Gerry did at South Egan was, all right, you guys are out, right? And then juniors, I'm happy to have you here, but if you're not willing to do what we're trying to do here, then you're out too. So I got rid of all the seniors, and I started picking off the juniors. And I said and my town is 50% Black, 50% white. So it's an integrated community. And so I targeted these 5 or 6 African-American kids who were freshmen. I go, you guys are going to be playing a lot. And so these guys and a bunch of other guys, they talk about that rise from where, getting your ass kicked to competing well and ultimately winning, big games.
Yeah.
And what it taught them. And I took a team out a couple of years to Notre Dame for these camps, these team camps that Gerry would run. And And I exposed these guys as sophomores to here. I had friends whose kids were playing. Two of my high school buddies had two really good college players. Timmy Muller was a defenseman of the year at Maryland. Jack Kelly was the goalie of the year at Brown.
Yeah.
You guys know.
Yeah.
So his dad played with me in Levittown. There's only one degree of Levittown in lacrosse.
Right.
So they got to see what these players can do and how they comport themselves, and it just opened their eyes up.
Right.
And so
that's amazing.
That, I'm proud of the fact that I dragged Shaker lacrosse out of the worst tier of lacrosse in Ohio, which is also saying a lot, up to in the top quartile.
Right.
And typically with our program is we get the Chaminade type Catholic schools will take 3 or 4 of our best players. Mm-hmm. So St. Ignatius is on the west side of Cleveland. We're on the east side. And we send typically 6 of the best players or top 10 players out to other schools, private schools.
Right.
But, like Gerry, it's really heartening there's 2 defensemen on the team now. One is 6'2", the other one's like 5'7", and they both can easily play Division III. And I think the tall one might potentially be able to play Division I. I don't know where his head is right now, so that's part of my challenge this spring.
I gotcha. Well, that's awesome. That's great. Turning it all around. It's time for a brief JML commercial break. Mentioned earlier, we have put together a Patreon page for the show. This will allow those interested in supporting our efforts to do just that, and to get exclusive access to unedited interviews, big discounts on JML online courses, and merchandise from our new online store. We have big additions to the JML course catalog. Now we have a defenseman's course taught by none other than UVA head lacrosse coach Lars Tiffany, and a goalie course taught by former 2-time All-American and 2-time national champion and UVA assistant coach Kip Turner. You can check out our Patreon page with the link that is listed in the description, as well as taking a look at the online store, again, with the link listed in the description. We will return to our interview in progress.
So, Gerry, obviously you were a head coach way back at St. Anselm's, and also, spent a time as a head coach in the high school ranks. And I know being around the game, Harvard wasn't your first opportunity to leave South Bend. So what was it about this moment in time and this opportunity that led you to want to take the leap back into being a head coach and leading a program yourself?
I don't think you make those kind of decisions using like a ledger or some sort of like checklist. It was something that I had thought about. I love Notre Dame. My wife went to school there. 2 of my 3 children were student athletes there. I went to graduate school there. So I had deep roots and deep connections there. Whenever you leave, anything like that is really difficult. But I also thought, like, you read a lot about how do you keep your mind fresh, how do you keep your passions alive, is by trying new things and learning new things. My brother and I are the oldest guys on this thing, and whether it's doing crosswords or learning new skills or travel, all those things kind of keep your mind fresh. So the idea of an adventure, a professional adventure at a new place in a great city, at a place that had, moments of real success. You guys maybe you won most of your games against Harvard, and they were never great, but they were never not pretty good, and so part of it was new time, new place, new adventure. And, the process of building something I find much more exhilarating than the actual consummation of that, in a weird way, because you can really see the incremental process and the brick building and the relationship building. And, I had done that, I think, for a really long time at Notre Dame. I still love that. I went to several weddings of my former players at Notre Dame in the last year and a half. And so that connective tissue is never going to go away. But I was looking for the next adventure for the last part of my professional life. And this seemed as good a place. It's an iconic, institution of higher learning that people aspire to. And if I could tap into that and energize the program and recruit, the kind of people I like to coach, I think we could create something. And I think we've transformed the mindset around the way people look at Harvard now from a lacrosse standpoint. Unfairly, I think it was viewed as a place for dilettantes and, future investment bankers. And I don't think that is, even though our guys are very successful professionally, they put the work in. And it's, we've had, I don't know, 6 or 7 ranked wins. And I think I've coached, like, trying to think of how many games I've coached. It's somewhere between like 20 and 25 in 4 years. So it's still in kind of formative, nascent stage right now, but culturally and recruiting and the type of people and all of those things that are really thrilling for me personally are starting to kind of coalesce. And so you can see the signs of something really great that's germinating. And as a coach, it never happens as fast as you want.
Right.
Like,
Right.
It's not like a movie. At the end of the 2-hour movie, everybody's cheering and you're
Right.
raising the trophy. It'd be nice if it was like that. You have some ups and downs and some challenges as we're putting this thing together, but those moments of real kind of inspiration and transformation, they're happening. And we're in that phase that we're like a startup that's really, it's got all the capital, it's got the product, we're putting the sales force together, and it's just about to happen. So,
that's exciting.
I'm thrilled.
You're in an exciting phase.
And to be with really impressive young people who are not like, I think about my brother, going down to Virginia. We have guys on our team that are, public school, dads are civil servants, as well as the whole other spectrum, children of whose parents are, or 1%ers, but each of them learn from each other. Some of the toughest guys I ever coached were, weren't always the blue collar guys. That's a mythology, but we have a little bit of everything on our team. We've got guys from all over the country, from different ethnic and religious and socioeconomic. And that's the great thing about a locker room, is that all that stuff goes away when you're working out. It's a great equalizer. And, but our guys bring, as my brother did when he, being at a great place like Virginia, he could have cried in his pillow and came home and my parents would have kicked his ass right back to Charlottesville. Or you meet with the teacher, you have that humility that athletes know better than most. It's why athletes are so impressive, and the athletes at elite schools are even that much more impressive, because on the surface they don't belong, but they find a way through humility and hard work and disappointment and failing and keep on showing up. All of that, I hunt that feeling and those kinds of guys, because that's where we come from. We saw how hard our parents worked, and without our parents ever having to say that you better work your ass off, you just saw that modeling. My mom was a bank teller on Hempstead Turnpike at Williamsburg Savings Bank, and my dad was a New York City fireman lieutenant, and they just got up and did the work.
Right.
Yeah.
No attribution, no promise of a raise, or you got your 2 weeks of vacation and you shut your mouth, and but we were able to be beneficiaries of all their hard work. And so
now let me ask, is there any adjustment, say, for the formula for success at Harvard versus Notre Dame, as far as, sounds fairly similar, but they're two different institutions? Is there any change in strategy or anything along those lines?
No, you know, I think successful, like, you know, listen, some of the variables that we have to review are, you know, are a little different. But I think the mindset of successful people at really good schools is that they've learned humility and gratitude for the people who help them. Like they really get that.
Mm-hmm.
And they also know that they're not perfect. And that embracing of imperfection means that they can keep on showing up to practice when they're getting killed or yelled at or the shot's not going in or you're not making saves. They keep on coming back, and they bring that same mindset when they go to the academic side of campus where, like my brother, they might feel like they're years or months behind, and that it didn't let that reality didn't let that cripple them, that they did extra work and they met with teachers and they asked questions, and like and I say it to my guys all the time, it's why you're going to be unbelievably successful in what you decide to do when you leave Harvard, is because the calluses that you've developed are thick. They keep on getting ripped open. You know, you slap some tape or a Band-Aid on it, you keep on showing up. It's kind of why at the really good schools there's this healthy, you know, not rivalry is not the word, but like that athletes are successful not because they showed up necessarily with elite credentials. Their elite credentials around effort and competition, curiosity, humility, and just the willingness. How many hours do I have to study? How many practice tests do I need to take? How many times do I need to meet with the tutor? They don't ask. They're just trying to figure out, just like they ask the coach, how hard do I have to shoot? How accurate do I have to shoot? What should I work on? What can I do better to get me on the field? The same thing. And that, you know, watching that happen and being a part of it is one of the great things about being a coach.
Right. That's awesome. Good stuff. Are we ready to bring Steve on for a few quick
I think
pass
so,
fail?
guys. We got
so
a
much.
final segment that takes a little bit of a different twist from. I think you'll learn that the mahogany is, I think, fake wood when you get these next questions.
Those are not lacrosse books back there. They don't let me ask any lacrosse related questions because I don't know what I'm talking about there. But we like to wrap up the podcast with a game that we call Pass Fail. This game is named in honor of the SNC grading option at Brown, but the necessary changes being made for a Harvard guest. Tonight we're going to call it Fail or Easy A. So we'll bring up a few different subjects. And I want you guys to give each subject either a fail or an easy A, and then maybe justify the grade with some commentary. So the first subject, I'm very interested to hear your take on this because two elite defenders. Subject number one is the new rules for 2024, specifically the goal crease prohibitions and the contact to the head and neck. It seems like these rules are just trying to make it harder to play defense. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Steve.
I thought you were going to talk about the stick. I mean, I would say it's a fail. It's just, you know, how much more restriction can you put on a defender, short stick or a long stick, in the game?
I think it's a fail, and I made this clear. We just had our coaches convention and things like that. It's just too, like, you know, people always ask, could you play? Like, these guys are so freaky athletic now. Like, it's a completely different game. The referees have a really hard job. There's only 3 of them. These guys are launching themselves. They're trying to determine where was the foot, where did he land, where was contact, was he pushed, did he launch himself? Like, so I've made it clear that I don't love that rule. Relative to the contact to the head, there's going to be a video review on that. There'll be video review on some of the jump dive as well. Is, you know, like, because guys are so athletic and so physical now, I think it's really good. I think that's a pass. That's a really good thing. There'll be video review to determine whether someone's going to be ejected or whether it'll be 1, 2, or 3 minute penalty. So I think that's a really healthy thing.
Should be interesting to
Nice.
see how that plays out. All right, subject number two. This is mostly for Gerry, but the subject is Matt Damon's character in Good Will Hunting. Is it plausible that a janitor is walking the halls of Harvard who could casually solve an unsolvable mathematical hypothesis? And have any of your players fit the mold of getting into a lot of bar fights while also maintaining a 4.0 grade point average? Is this a fail or an easy A?
Well, I mean, I know. I think that's an easy A. You know, they hired a guy from Levittown to coach Harvard, so that means anything can happen. Anything can happen. The guy 4.0s, we had, I think, we led Division I in GPA for we led all of college lacrosse in GPA, 500 teams, the highest GPA in college lacrosse. So I know we probably at least half our team had 4.0s.
Wow.
Last year. As far as the fights, I would hope that they would turn the other cheek and walk the other way so they don't get ejected from Harvard. So no, I do not believe that there's full on brawls going on the weekends. I think we're
just like you and your brother would have done it in Levittown, turn the other cheek, right? I mean, that's exactly was the spirit of Levittown, as I understand it.
There was not a lot of good teeth. The dentist was the most well-paid guy in Levittown.
I got into a fight 6 weeks into UVA, and I broke a guy's nose, and I was sitting in my room going, "What am I going to tell my father when they throw me out?" But the guy didn't press any charges, so I skated away.
Thank goodness.
Was that the guy that asked you if you guys were going to rob him?
No, he was on the other hall.
All right, so subject number 3 is mostly for Steve. The subject is the Velvet Underground. 2 members of the band having graduated from Levittown Division High School. Is this music your cup of tea? And a follow-up: what kind of music did the early '80s UVA teams listen to in the locker room to get pumped up for games?
Big fan of the Velvet Underground for sure. So that's I'm down with that. I think I knew. I thought there was one guy. I didn't know there was 2 guys who were part of the Velvet Underground.
Apparently, yeah, the founding member was the guitar player, but a later drummer for the band was also a graduate of Division.
Wow. Well, we know Nico wasn't in that because we would have known she was walking around town. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
So we had, half the team was from Long Island. The other half primarily was from Baltimore, prep school guys. So there was always a battle in the locker room, but we usually won. And so like Southside Johnny was a big one, Springsteen.
Nice.
The Clash. We would bring the Clash in, but Southside was a big one, and he ended up coming and play there in '82. I think we saw him.
Ooh,
Southside nice. Johnny and the Asbury Jukes.
Yeah,
Southside Johnny and the Jukes. That is awesome.
I have to jump in on the music thing because I'm basically Steve Byrne's spirit animal when it comes to music. When we were younger, side story, when I got into Chaminade, my parents bumped my oldest brother, who didn't play lacrosse. It was a New York City fireman as well. My 2 oldest brothers got moved, had to share a room. I got my own room.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And
wow.
right around that time, WLIR, which was the new wave music.
Garden
and
City.
So, my brother used to like to have the parties, and they used to Biko by Peter Gabriel was the last song, all right? I knew that's when I had to start cleaning up the party before my parents came home. And again, it's like an 8-minute song, but WLIR was playing, the Smiths and the Cure and the Clash, and I became totally immersed in that. So I have an original Velvet Underground album, the Banana album, which was designed by Andy Warhol. I had no idea that 2 guys from Levittown, and Steve, I had no idea. And I'm like, I know useless trivia like that.
Steve did his homework.
I'm going deep on that.
Trust me, if Steve Grisalfi will find useless trivia that you don't know. Trust me.
That's another great thing about Levittown I didn't know.
Well, the other thing is Billy Joel hung out in Levittown at the West Green.
Did he?
So
He's a Hicksville guy,
there's,
right?
There's a line. Guy, right? There's a line in the song, "Hanging Out at the Village Green" on one of his hits.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, engineered boots, leather jackets, and tight blue jeans, right?
Yeah, that's it. That was because he lived on the border of Levittown and Hicksville.
Right.
Awesome trivia. I love it.
All right, so the final subject, and this is one that I'm sure is it's a pressing question that I'm sure a lot of our listeners are now dying to know. Who would win in a fight right now between Steve or Gerry? Not in your prime, but like today.
He works out all the time. I'm
You're the big brother, though.
Yeah.
Could be a liability, maybe, though, at this point.
My brother was a tough mother, and he took boxing. My dad tried to get me into the boxing. I didn't like to get hit in the face.
Break your glasses.
But my brother, my dad was, God rest his soul, was, he mellowed a little bit when he was aged, but he was a scary cat. And so when he would go away for these 48-hour and 72-hour tours, and when we were bad, man, he'd throw us in the backyard, and he was you weren't bad very often.
Right.
Yeah.
But so my brother ended up, taking boxing lessons with Paul Goldsmith, who's another great level, was the Division III Player of the Year at Roanoke, Steve, right, or something like that.
Tackman of the year at Roanoke.
And Steve and Paul Goldsmith boxed in East Meadow. They went, and my Steve would show me some of the stuff, but he was a bleeder. He right, Steve?
Yeah.
He was a
yeah. My nose just hit my nose. My dad loved it because he would come. He would take me there if I couldn't get a ride. And he, because that's him and his brothers grew up in Yorkville up on 90th and 2nd Avenue, and they were just brawlers. And that was kind of the coin of the realm back in the 40s and the 50s. Is you gotta be good with your fists, and those guys were very good with their fists.
Every story growing up, from the confirmation party and the christenings and things like that, was, and then the fight broke out. Every that was the
hold my jacket.
Yeah, hold my jacket. So
hold my jacket.
So
nice.
No, my brother would kick my ass, I think.
Well, Ron, you see where that Long Island toughness comes from. I'm the son of a New York City cop. These are two firefighters' kids, and we're not going to St. Paul's or Gilman and putting our coats and ties on.
Look, here's the thing that I always struggled with. Okay. I hated those guys in Baltimore. I was a Catholic school kid from Annapolis, St. Mary's High School. I couldn't stand
St. Mary's, yeah.
Guys. Oh yeah. See?
Mikey Burnett.
See? That's right,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah,
I played
Brian
summer league with Michael Burnett. He walked out there in this old helmet and an old crappy stick. And all these young kids think they're going to dominate him. And he was just still he was, how much older? He was
Smoking
10 years
people.
older. Oh, yeah.
I covered Mike.
I literally just got a text from Mike Burnett 2 hours ago.
Really?
Shit.
Wow.
Nice. Legend.
I got a picture of Mike Burnett. My first year, we didn't really, there was no scouting back then, really. And Carolina had gotten all these guys in. And so we had a really good team. So we drive down to Chapel Hill, and Mike Burnett is got springs on. So one of the starting defenders is covering him, who's, going to be a third team All-American. He's getting smoked. And our first team All-Americans covering this other guy is very good. And they throw me in on Mike Burnett, and I had never seen him before. So he just smoked me. I had never been smoked before.
Oh,
and I was
smooth, man. He's
so over 4 years, I would say he won round one. He won round two on points, and then I won round three, and then round four was a TKO.
Nice.
Got the last laugh.
That's what it takes.
I remembered everything he did. I mean, I would look at the film, and because there was no way that was happening again.
Nice. I like it.
Guys, well,
Good
you know,
stuff.
it's a great way to end because, you know, as you guys were going along, Mike Caravana was a guy who recruited me to
And
go to
me as
Brown,
well. Me
you
as
know,
well.
and you know, Gerry, you know, Andrew Perry, one of your great midfielders who I know is going through some tough stuff physically this year. But I played football with his dad, you know, at Brown. His dad tragically passed away. And I was an administrator at Moses Brown where, you know, he ended up going for his last couple of years.
I
So
was just at his house 6 hours ago.
Oh,
how's he
wow.
doing?
He's great. My oldest son lives in Providence, so I went down to see him, and I stopped in Barrington on the way back. He's, you know, and again, his dad's picture. I kind of probably knew that you guys would have overlapped with Andrew.
Yeah.
Is going to be out this whole year with he had double hip impingement, so he had double hip surgeries, but he's back training, and he's, you know, so is mom, Rosalie. So yeah, the small
Yeah.
world. Pete Lasagna, who you guys all know,
Yeah.
Pete's one of my
Mhm.
great friends, one of the great people in the history of the game.
Totally.
Just super smart and kind and very, you know, almost like the conscience of the game. And in many ways, Pete,
Yeah.
my wife and I
Mhm.
celebrated our 30th anniversary this summer. We had a vow renewal, and Pete came and did
Oh,
the,
that's
did the
awesome.
ceremony.
Oh, he
Really?
was Reverend Pete?
That's
He's
great.
Reverend Pete.
That's
Reverend
awesome.
Pete. So
He was
That's
hilarious.
awesome.
this, I
That's
think,
awesome. Great
the
connection.
kind of connective
Hey,
tissue.
hey,
of the-
I just had dinner with Mike Caravana last week down here in Granville.
Really?
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah, Mike.
I haven't
recruited us
seen
all.
Mike in a long time.
I saw him
Yeah.
a couple years ago at a UVA reception, you know, like at a lacrosse game. He was doing well. Great guy.
He's recruited a bunch of our guys from Moses Brown, and then you know, Andrew's brothers playing for I got a brother who's 17
Yes.
years younger than me. You know, Scott, who's at RPI, is the head coach, and you know, Andrew's twin brothers is the goalie there. He's a freaking great player.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why we do this, guys. It's just fun. You know, we're all talking about if there's one
All
degree of
interconnected.
separation from Levittown, it's like a half a degree if you're in the lacrosse world. So
Steve, did you play with Matt Rainis?
I did. Yeah.
He used to come back and coach. I'm from Lynbrook, so
Yeah. No, Matt's it was like covering Sasquatch.
Yeah.
You know, he
That dude.
was like 6'3". He had these big rounded shoulders, and he was just manhandle you. Super nice guy.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. This has been a ton of fun.
Totally awesome, guys. Really great. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Until we meet again, here's to hoping you find the twine. We're signing off here at the Get the Lax Coop. Thanks again so much. We will see you the next time.